The most noticeable convention of short films was the sound. Almost all of the short films I studied had the same song or sound throughout the whole production. These were mainly used to create atmosphere and to reflect and direct the pace of the film. I also noticed that the music was usually just in the background and did not take any attention away from the action. For example, in RVG, the only sound was fast-paced music that simply reflected the tone of the short film. Other short films use sound motifs. A sound motif is a sound or piece of music that is associated with a certain character, place, or object, and is used to condition the audience to feel a certain way about the thing attached to the sound. A popular example is from Star Wars, where Darth Vader is consistently associated with this piece of music. However, they are frequently used in short films as there is not enough time to give context about characters, and sound motifs immediately tell the audience who is the antagonist and/or protagonist. A short film in the same genre as mine, Mystery, is Black Hole. This mainly used background sound and a sound motif whenever the hole was shown on screen. This established that the hole was significant and the type of sound suggested an ominous nature about it. In terms of sound, I did not conform to the main conventions of short films. This is because I used a mixture of sound effects, diegetic sound, and music. Arguably, the sound design of my short film was more like a full feature-length film, rather than a short film. Although I do like the idea of sound motifs, I did not want to use the same clip of music every time as the antagonist was introduced too many times, meaning it would be a lot less effective and maybe more annoying for the audience due to its repetitiveness. Many short films use a wider range of camera angles than some feature-length films, despite the obvious time difference. This is because there is a much larger focus on the way short films are produced rather than the storylines. For example, in many of the short films I studied, especially RVG, unconventional camera angles and perspectives were used, whereas these would look completely out of place in a slower paced but longer feature-length film due to how the film is likely to be focused on characters and what is happening in their lives, whereas short films are often filmed to be as imaginative and almost as unrealistic as possible while still maintaining a high quality end product. An example of this in my short film are the camcorder shots. These are unlikely to be seen in a feature-length mystery film, but perhaps more likely in an independent short-length movie. As a result of this is an example of how I've subverted the conventions of feature-length films, but conformed to conventions of independent short films. The storylines of short films are usually extremely simple, and some do not even have a storyline as such. They're made purely for entertainment, such as RVG. Those with a storyline usually follow Todorov's narrative. However, my short film had a non-linear narrative due to the inclusion of flashback scenes. I studied a short film to see if flashback scenes can work in a short film under and around the 5-minute mark. This was The Boot Sale. Although this film is almost the opposite of mine, it follows a very similar narrative style. This showed the main character experiencing flashbacks of a recent relationship at different points in his week. This is an example of how I've conformed but also subverted from the convention of short films. This is because I followed a similar narrative to a short film I watched, but the majority of short films do not follow the same narrative as me. When creating my film review, I had to conform to the convention set by Empire magazine as I was replicating their design and style. As a result of this, I could not subvert from any conventions of this type of film review. I studied numerous film posters to find out the convention of those in the same genre. For example, I found there was always a main image, the title, a billing block, and websites. Most also had the actors' names or other forms of star marketing, and some sort of review. This included either a star rating or a quote from a written review. I ended up using all of these in my final product. Because I wanted to make the poster look similar to real-life mainstream product, I did not subvert to conventions of them and instead conformed.